Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I'm Michael Adams, my co-host tonight from Steelers Nation South, Rollo Coughlin. We have a career interview for you. We are joined by a retired NFL punter out of Jackson State. Go Tigers. In the NFL, he played with the Green Bay Packers and the Los Angeles Rams. That's right, they were in Los Angeles back in the 90s. He also played one season in the Canadian Football League, so we want to welcome Paul McJulien. Paul, thank you so much for coming on.
I'm glad you're having me. Thanks so much. Thanks a lot.
Well, let's start out our little interview here, and let's go back in time. Baker High School in Louisiana. I know you played punter in the NFL, but you were a larger punter. So when you were in high school, what positions did you play, and did you play any other sports?
Well, actually, no other sports, but I did return punts, which is crazy. Um, and I actually returned two punts and a blocked punt in one game against Denham Springs.
Wow.
But I only went to Baker for 1 year. From third grade to 12th grade, I was at University High. And you might remember some of these names. I played alongside Brian Kinchin. Chad Luke went to school there. Um, I forgot the golfer's name. Uh, he golfs now, but that's where I spent the majority of my high school years.
So we recently had Charlie Neal on for an HBCU discussion. You attended Jackson State, an HBCU college, university that has won four Black College National Championships. When it went into your decision to go there, and was there any other college that you were considering at that time, or were coming after you?
At the time, it was difficult because I was recruited by 110 schools coming out of Baker from Syracuse, where my dad went to school, but he also went to Southern University. But um, I received letters from Syracuse, Alabama, Arkansas. LSU wasn't a heavy recruiter. But I think it was difficult for me because I was an African American punter. That was like African American quarterbacks at that time. So there were very few. So when I actually made it, there were only two African American punters in the NFL at the time in 91. One was Reggie Roby with Miami, but he didn't go to a historically Black college university. He went to Iowa, but I was the only African American punter from an HBCU during those early 90 periods until later when other African Americans, made their way in.
So from 1998 to 1991, you're on four different like practice squads and things like that. At any point, did you feel, maybe this isn't going to happen?
I did, but I kept pushing. It was, I had to find my way in through a different alley. I wasn't drafted. I knew that they weren't coming to Jackson State to look for punters. They were coming for running backs and defensive backs and et cetera. You know the story. And with the help of my parents, I was able to um, find my way through them footing the bill for me to get to tryouts. And my dad at the time found uh, a gentleman. His name was Ray Pelfrey, and he held kicking and punting camps all over. So during the summer, my dad and I, if we didn't drive, he flew me. And he ended up getting a van and then a motor home. And so my parents were big supporters, which allowed me the financial means to be able to get in front of teams, which they don't do a lot of open tryouts anymore like they
Yeah. Rollo, before you go, let me throw this in here. One of those practice squads you were on was the San Francisco 49ers.
did. Mm-hmm.
What I mean, what are you thinking? What's going through your head when you're like in a camp with Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, but Montana, Young, Taylor? I mean, just Roger Craig, amazing players. What's going through your head when you got that going on?
Well, I knew I was. I knew that my tenure in Miami wasn't going to be favorable. Reggie Roby was out on a contract holdout, But Don Shula asked me to stay in Miami. He said, I'm not going to cut you. I'm going to trade you because you're too good of a punter to just cut. So he asked me to stay in Miami. I stayed in Miami. 2 days later, I'm in San Francisco. And when I got there, I was like, wow, um, Super Bowl. Maybe a chance to get a Super Bowl win, my first go around. But then uh, when we came down to actually the last final hours of what was going to happen, um, that's when Green Bay entered the picture. I was sound asleep. Got a call from Tom Bratz from Green Bay, and he said I had just been traded. I was leaving on a 1 o'clock flight headed to Green Bay. So, but it was all a good. At that particular time, the question you're asking me, I really didn't care who I would end up playing for. I just wanted to play. So whoever would have chosen me or where I would have went, I would have been just as happy.
Paul, after the 91 season, you owned the Packers franchise record for most punts inside the 10-yard line in a season. What does it feel like a punter when you get that coffin corner kick? And how were you able to find so much success at it that season?
Well, I didn't do a lot of coffin corner. That didn't come in until 92. And one of the strengths that I had that I believe Coach Tippett liked, or Coach Infani, who's the head coach at the time, was the hang time that I was able to put up. And it afforded, coverage units to get down. And so I just actually would just punt the ball, but down the middle of the field between the hash, not so much outside of the hash at that point, or when I was there.
After that 91 season I just mentioned, there was a lot of changes for the Packers in 92. Mike Holmgren replaced Lindy Infante, and he hired a highly new staff, including Howard Tippett, who you just mentioned. So did this have an effect on you that season? And what was it part of the reason why you signed with the Rams in 93 to go back with Howard Tippett?
Well, during the 92 season, when things changed, Coach Nolan Cromwell came in, and he was more of a big coffin punter type of guy. It was something that I hadn't done. So, but adjustment was something that you just do. And then during the middle of the season, I had a fractured patella, and they ended up bringing Brian Wagner back in. And so I ended up just sitting out the rest of the 92 season. 92 season during the summer was when I actually signed with the Canadian League. But I was only there for 2 games. And then Coach Tippett called me, and that's when I went to the Rams. So that's how I ended up there.
And you mentioned Reggie Roby a little bit earlier. And over the course of the NFL, there hasn't been too many black punters. But did you get a chance to meet Reggie Roby, and was he an inspiration to you? Do you still talk to him today?
Well, actually, Reggie passed away several years ago.
Oh, that's right, he did. That's right, he did.
Yeah, and I was sad to hear that. But yes, we spoke off and on, occasionally during the season while I was playing. And then when I had found out he had gotten really sick, so I didn't speak with him much after that. But yes, he was. Actually, I have a newspaper article somewhere in here that says he thought that I was the best. You could actually Google it somewhere and find it in the Miami Herald, where he said I was the best punter that they had brought in to compete against him over quite some time. So, but I knew my tenure there with him wasn't going to be short when he signed, and it was okay with me. I was fine with it. I was happy to get the opportunity to be there while he was out, because I knew I would get a chance to showcase my abilities And anytime you're able to play in some preseason games, other teams get a chance to see your talents and what you can do.
You kicked in the frozen tundra when it's cold and it's freezing up there. You got to kick that ball. How hard is the ball, and how hard is it to get the ball to do what you want it to do?
Well, that was difficult as well, but I tried to keep my average in the higher 40s before that cold weather came in, so it would kind of balance out. But it was difficult. The wind was brutal. The ground was cement. When we played the Detroit Lions, I think I punted a ball, and I don't even remember Mel Gray. I think he just reached up and grabbed it like this, because it was that low, and he just took off with it. And next thing I knew, he ran right by me. So yeah, those games were brutal. They were cold.
So I understand that after football, you worked as a treatment coordinator for the National Youth Advocate Program. How'd you become involved in that, and tell us about that program?
Um, it was a good program. I enjoyed working there. Um, you got an opportunity to work with foster children, um, and find placements for them. Um, I had initially gone back and got my degree, um, and now I work with in the same capacity, but I'm a forensic social worker where I work with gentlemen that have a criminal background, an intellectual disability, and a mental disability. But all of them have been deemed by the court of law not to be able to go to trial to withstand any. So they place them in different homes for them to live. So I work with them on a daily basis.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. It was awesome to speak with you.
Yes, I'm glad you guys had me.
I remind everybody, hit that like, subscribe, notification button. That's always very, very important. Helps out every show out there. And we got more Packers coming in the future. If you're a Packers fan, plenty of NFL players and every other sport you can think of. So everybody have a great night. We'll see everybody next time.